Decades ago, I started growing food in my front and backyard, and I realized that my mission in life is to inspire and empower others to grow their own nutrient-dense, healthy organic food. Because of this, a lot of people have come to me with their gardening questions over the years, and that got me thinking, what if we put together a community that would help budding gardeners blossom? So I finally made the idea a reality with my Urban Farm U member program. Each month, your membership includes 3 live online events, a monthly class, a chit-chat with an expert, and a monthly coaching session, plus access to the experts on our member page and a significant discount on our signature courses. I'm deeply committed to transforming our global food system, and I do this by empowering you to grow your own food. The Urban Farm membership program is a simple way to get going. Please join me in transforming your food system today. To learn more, go to urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444. That's urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444.
You're listening to the Urban Farm Podcast, your partner in the Grow Your Own Food revolution. Whether you've just been introduced to urban farming or you're a lifelong advocate, we're sure you'll leave feeling more informed, equipped, and empowered to dig deeper into the soil of your local food economy. With you every step of the way, here's your host, Greg Peterson.
Today on the Urban Farm Podcast, we have Jessica Piper of Jarden Home Brands, a company we may recognize better through their iconic ball canning product line. Jessica is here to talk about Jarden's Can It Forward Day program. Jessica is a home canning expert and has worked for Jarden Home Brands for over 11 years. She currently is a home canning expert, analyst specialist in consumer affairs, and a certified process engineer through the USDA. Being a lifelong resident of Muncie, Indiana, Jessica has a strong affinity toward the Ball brand and its heritage in the community. Now in its 6th year, Can It Forward Day has become a Facebook Live event taking place Friday, July 22nd from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Jarden Home Brands will host a series of live, unique recipe demos taking place in kitchens across the country. Welcome to the show today, Jessica.
Thanks, Greg, for having me. I'm really excited.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited too. I love to can. So I shared a bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks for us and share more about the path you took to get where you're at now?
Absolutely. So it's kind of a random path. Never in a million years did I ever think that I would grow up to be the home canning expert with the Ball brand. That was never really on my radar. That's not what I didn't study food science in college. I actually studied counseling and management. So
wow.
kind of an odd path. I moved away for a bit after college, and when I came back, I actually worked through a temp agency and got placed here at Jarden Home Brands, and I eventually took a job as an electronic data interchange analyst in the IT department. I know, right? This is completely random. So I did programming for about 4 years, and then the past 8.5, I've been over in the marketing department, and I've been our home canning expert ever since.
Wow. So you've used the word home canning expert twice. Tell me about that.
Yes.
What do you mean?
So being the home canning expert, I am the person that you can come to here in the office to know anything about canning, any of your canning questions. You can come ask me about them. I'm part of the consumer affairs department. So our agents are available Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. to assist with any consumer questions and whatnot. And I'm in that center as well, so I can help with any escalated questions. So we've got a great team there. And then I also serve as one of our spokespeople. So when I go out and about to teach canning classes, I'm the person who teaches folks how to do that. And then obviously having conversations like with you right now, Greg. So that's one of the things that I do. And then I also attended training through the USDA. So I'm a certified process engineer.
Wow.
It sounds really technical, but that training just gives you further information on food safety and more of the science, the really deep science into home canning, because I think a lot of folks forget how scientific canning really is. I am certified through the USDA for that, and that's what makes me our expert.
Wow. Can I be your friend?
Sure, absolutely.
Wow. So I told you in our pre-conversation that I've been canning for the past 40 years. So, having you as my best friend now, I can call you, right?
Absolutely. Anytime.
So Can It Forward, your Can It Forward program, when I saw this a couple of weeks ago, I got really excited about it. Tell us about it.
Sure. So this will be our 6th annual Can It Forward Day. It's a program we started a while back to just give folks an opportunity to all get out in their kitchens and hang out with their friends and start canning forward for the winter. And we usually do it typically in like around August, but this year we're doing a little earlier, and it'll just be on Friday. We'll have our 6th annual Can It Forward Day. So it's just a great way to get out there and show folks how easy it is to preserve and how easy it is to can and all the different variations of things you can do. Sometimes the first one was in Seattle. Then we did one at the Minnetrista Cultural Center in Muncie, which is actually part of the Ball Brothers Foundation. It's actually right there next to some of the Ball Brother mansions that are in town, which is really cool, at least for me.
Wow.
And then we've been in New York the past 2 more years, and last year we did it from our office here in Fishers because we're quite proud of the space. We just moved in here. And then, again, this year we'll be doing it here. And it's just a great way to get folks involved. In the past couple of years, we've had bloggers participating in it and sharing their recipes and posting on their pages and different things. We've had some celebrity guests that have joined us in the past as well. So it's just a great way to get people together because canning is so it's a community, right?
Yeah,
there's so many
absolutely.
people who do it, and you do it because you learned it from your grandmother, your godmother, your uncle, like somebody you know and care about probably passed this knowledge down to you. So we're really unique in our community, and have an opportunity to get everyone together to share their processes, their successes, their failures, to learn something new all in one day is pretty spectacular.
Wow. And so you're actually broadcasting this live on the internet, right?
That is correct.
Tell us how that works, because that's like, wow.
Well, it's when it works, it's awesome. We did have some technical difficulties last year, which forced us to do a recording versus doing it live. But you just tune in. You can find, if you go to Ball Canning and Recipes on Facebook, we always have the link posted there. Freshpreserving.com is our website, so you can find the information there. It'll take you to where you need to go to watch it. And it's really cool to see it in live time.
Oh, yeah.
You can actually watch from the beginning to the end. It's not like little snippets of like you do this and then you do that. You get to watch the entire process. Chef Sarah, Paige, and myself typically are doing recipes and demoing and just really making sure we're thorough and teaching people the correct processes and letting them know about all the tools we have to make canning successful and to make it simpler. And so it's just really neat having it live. Folks can actually ask questions, and then they'll type them out on the screen, and we'll have someone read those to us. We're actually answering consumers' questions right there live in the broadcast, which is so neat to get you right. How many times do you get that opportunity to literally, you get to speak to me now, but how many times do folks get to ask someone who knows the process so well? It's a really neat opportunity.
Cool. And this is all going to be on Facebook, right?
Yeah, we're using Facebook Live. So actually, we just tested it a couple weeks ago now to see how that would work. So it was our first time. We did a freezer jam. It was really great. We had great success with it. So we're really looking forward to trying out this new avenue of sharing out our adventures on Can It Forward Day.
Nice. So let's talk about canning.
All right.
Like, where do we start? Like, equipment. Let's start with equipment.
Okay, well, starting with equipment, the first thing that you'll want to make sure you have is a tested recipe. I know that's not physical equipment, but that's the absolute first thing you need to have. And you want to make sure that you're using a trusted resource, whether it's from us here at the Ball brand, or if it's the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Those two resources right there, you can guarantee that those recipes have been thoroughly tested for safety in home canning. So that's number one, always. Obviously, you're going to need some canning jars if you plan to can.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly. I hear you have a lot.
I do.
So,
very proud. I'm very proud of my Ball canning jar collection.
Most people who have a lot of jars are very proud of that, and I love that. You'll need your 2-piece canning closure. So when you buy your jars, they already come with lids and bands.
Oh, right.
But you can also buy those separately because the lids are actually a one-time use product. So you'll need those, and then you don't necessarily need to have a large canning pot and a rack and all of those tools. You simply really just need a pot deep enough for all your jars to be covered by 1 to 2 inches. And we actually have a home discovery kit, and it's a small basket, and you can do small batches, like 3 jars of something, like a salsa. And that way you don't have to get a large canner out. So if you're doing small batch canning, using a stock pot would be great. If you're doing large quantities and, 7 quarts of something, you definitely need a larger canner. With that being said, one topic I do want to make sure I cover is if you have a glass top stove, it's very important. The very first step you need to do is contact the manufacturer of that stove to ensure that it's safe for home canning, because not all glass stove tops are. If your glass top stove is safe for home canning, then the next step is you want to make sure that the pot you're using is completely smooth on the bottom. We make an enamel canner, and that is not smooth on the bottom. It kind of has a divot in the middle. But our stainless steel canner is completely smooth. It's also magnetic, so it will work on an induction stovetop. So that's
interesting.
good to know. Yes. And so that one's smooth, so you need a smooth pot. And the pot should not exceed your burner by more than 1 inch all the way around. So that's kind of a random fact for folks. I have a glass top stove at home that unfortunately I cannot preserve on, so I have to go to my mom's whenever I can.
I'd throw it out.
But that's so
get a new stove.
I keep waiting for it to stop working, and then because I'd really like to switch to gas. I have the hookup to do that, but I digress. So, anyways,
that's all right.
That's a really, really that's a really important fact for folks who do have a glass top stove. So they definitely need to look into that. And then if you are using a pot or even if a canner, you need to have some kind of canning rack. So that can either be an actual rack designated for canning or a pie rack. Something else I like to do is take the bands off of, jars that you aren't using, and you can tie those together and lay those on the bottom of your pot, and that'll also work as a rack. The rack is really important for 2 reasons. One, it keeps your jars
inside the pot. Okay.
Yeah, you just lace them together with twist ties from sandwich, from a bread bag.
Wow.
You can tie those together with some string or something, lay those on the bottom, and then you put your jars on top of there because you don't want the glass in direct contact with the metal on the pot. And you need them elevated for proper circulation of water because that's what the heat penetration that's necessary to can, which we can go into a little bit more depth in the science later. But that's the basic equipment. So tested recipe, canning jars, 2-piece canning closures, a pot deep enough to cover your jars by 1 to 2 inches, and a rack. That's all you really, really need to get started. And most folks have these things already in their home.
Yeah. And if you don't have the jars, they're easy to get, I'll bet, right?
Absolutely. You can go to just about anywhere and purchase them anymore. And also freshpreserving.com, you can order them right online and have them delivered to your house. So we make it really simple.
There you go. So the equipment that you just explained is for what they call a water bath method, is it not?
That's correct. That is the water bath method. Rarely have I met someone who starts pressure canning at first. Usually folks are more comfortable starting at water bath canning. So that's why I typically state those items for someone who's beginning.
Perfect. So I actually have a pressure canner. And so if you could just say a little bit about pressure canners and why I would use one.
Sure. So the pressure canners is what you would use if you're canning low-acid foods. So those are foods such as meats, stews, vegetables. The lower acid foods would require a pressure canner, and why that's so important is the bacteria and microorganisms that are present on those types of foods require a temperature of 240 degrees to be destroyed, and that's what you're essentially doing when you're canning.
Right.
You're cooking the food to a temperature to kill any bacteria or microorganisms that may be present. And so low acid foods, the only way you can get to 240 is in a pressurized environment.
Right.
There are some folks who think that, well, I cooked on my stovetop for 4 hours, where you just really overcooked your food.
Yeah.
You never got it to the temperature to kill bacteria there. So that's why that's important. Now, another thing that you want to make sure that you're purchasing if you're going to start pressure canning is that you actually purchase a pressure canner, not a pressure cooker. Those are indeed 2 different appliances. So with a pressure, I have a pressure cooker at home I use all the time, but I would never use it for canning because it doesn't get to the correct PSI.
Oh, right.
The PSI is important to get to the temperature to kill the bacteria and microorganisms. And also, too, part of the process of canning is that coming up time and the coming down time after the recipe, which we can speak to later. But you don't, every recipe when you're canning, like in a water bath canner, after your processing time's done, you want to take off the lid, remove it from the heat, and let it cool for 5 minutes before you remove those jars. That technically is part of the process.
Oh, yes, okay.
So during that So during the come down time on a pressure canner, if the gauge of that pressure canner itself can cause it to cool down more quickly than if you have a pressure cooker than a pressure canner. So they do manufacture, some manufacturers out there have appliances that do both. They are pressure cooker and canner. The key word when you purchase is look for the word canner. That's the key. Yeah.
Fantastic. So what is the best recipe for beginners to start with?
Oh, my word. So for me, every time I teach a class, it is always some type of berry jam, whether it's strawberry or mixed berry. It is absolutely the easiest and probably the most instantly gratifying recipe that you can do.
Course.
Because it makes your house smell fantastic. And then let's say, you have enough to fill, let's say you have enough to fill 4 jars to the correct headspace, but your 5th jar is not really, it's like half full. Well, you can put that up. The thing is, here's a little fact for you. If you have a jar that's not completely full, you should not process that.
Oh, interesting.
The headspace is incorrect. You want to put that in your refrigerator and enjoy it right then.
Right.
You never want to process a jar that isn't the correct headspace. So
good.
What I like to do is take that hot jam and I can put it on pound cake, or in the summer like angel food cake, or you mix it into your smoothies or your yogurt. There are so many things you can do with jam, and like I said, it's instantly gratifying. You can just lick the spoon, and it's awesome. Now, the actual, the easiest would be pickles, because you simply are making a brine of vinegar, some spices, and water, and pouring in a jar with cucumbers. So that's technically the easiest. However,
it's not nearly as gratifying. Exactly.
No, because you have to wait. But you have to wait 4 to 6 weeks before you even eat them.
Right.
Because you have that allows those flavors to penetrate into the vegetable. So that's the easiest. So if you really truly want the easiest, start there. But you don't get to enjoy it for a month. So that's no fun. That's why I always say some kind of a berry jam, because there's so many applications for it.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely, especially on ice cream.
Yes.
So number one rule to remember when canning.
Number one rule is follow a tested recipe, hands down.
Oh yes, okay, good.
Hands down, because if you follow a tested recipe completely from start to finish, you will absolutely have 0 issues with your canning. You will be successful every single time. I can't stress that enough. I feel so terrible when I have to, talk to consumers who've had a poor experience, and I find out that maybe they water bath their green beans. Well, they didn't kill the bacteria, and so the food spoils, and they lose their food. There's so much time and effort, and you understand this. You're growing your own food,
right?
So to grow it and then to can it, you want to be successful, and it's heartbreaking when you have a failure. There's so much pride and emotion that goes into canning. So I can assure anyone, if you follow a tested recipe, again, you can go to freshpreserving.com or any of our ball-branded publications or the National Center for Home Food Preservation. You go to use any of those resources and you follow that recipe from start to finish, you will never have an issue.
Perfect.
I can promise you.
So
it's that easy. It really is that easy.
Yeah.
Follow the recipe.
Perfect. So when following a recipe, there's this great book that I have sitting right in front of me. It's called The All New Ball Book of Canning and Preserving. This thing is huge. Tell us about it.
It is, and it's gorgeous. The photography in this book is
stunning,
phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this book, and Chef Sarah worked really hard on developing recipes and testing them, and I got to help a little bit, do a lot of taste testing, which is really exciting.
Oh, the best part.
It is indeed. And I'm so excited about it because there are so many unique and interesting new recipes in this book. We've had our Ball Blue book for, decades. And so to come out with something so innovative and to expand on, the basic of our Ball Blue book, I literally am probably the most excited about this publication for that very reason. And there are fermenting recipes and smoking recipes and all kinds of different things that we've never really hit on before as a Ball brand. And it's just so exciting.
Wow. Honeyed apricots on page 116. Oh, there's some berries. Yeah.
There are so many delicious recipes in here. And then they even give you options of things to do with some of the recipes and how to make them, like some of the jams that you can use as a basting for like chicken wings.
Oh, right.
It's so cool. I love this book.
Yeah, me too. Well, great. I'm very happy that I actually have a copy of it, and I'm looking for my recipe that I'm going to do for the 22nd. So
Well, if you're looking for something interesting to try,
Tell me.
My personal favorite out of the book is actually page 267. It's for homemade yogurt.
Ooh.
And I had never made yogurt before, and so we went through a fermentation class a while back, and so I got to learn all about that because that was something new to me. I mean, for the most part, we focused on canning, essentially, here, but to learn more about fermentation was really cool, and I had no idea how easy it is to make your own yogurt.
Isn't that fun?
And then it is. And then I like to use my jam that I have, especially that mixed berry jam, add that to my yogurt when I eat it. It is awesome. It is so good. Like, again, I was talking about all the different applications for jam. You put it in your yogurt that you made yourself. How cool is that?
Perfect.
I love it.
So
you have to check that one out.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll have this on the show notes page of the podcast as well.
Perfect.
So long-term storage of canned food. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So one of actually probably the best thing about home canning is it gives you the option to keep your food on the shelf for up to 1 year. You know, you can do with freezing, you can freeze for up to a year. However, let's say you have a nasty storm come through and you lose power for a few days.
Oh, yeah.
Now you lose all that food.
Right.
You're taking a risk, right? I mean, freezing is super easy and it's great, and there are a lot of wonderful applications for freezing. But if you're really trying to put up a lot of food to get you through the winter, this is a great option. If you actually, just can it, you can put it on the shelf and it's good to go. You just want to make sure that you label what recipe it is and the date that you canned it, because we do recommend a 1 year.
Yeah.
Absolutely, recommend a 1 year shelf life. Now, obviously, many folks have been able to keep their food longer, and it will. As long as it stays sealed, it's still safe. The reason we recommend 1 year is just because over time the color, and the quality and the texture start to diminish.
Yeah.
And most importantly, the nutritional value starts to go away.
Oh, yeah.
And, you eat for nutrition, so that's always important to make sure you eat it. And if you date your jars, you know which ones to consume first, right? You want to consume the oldest jars first. So that helps you with your rotation, lets you know what's in there. And then you simply need to store them in a cool, dry, dark location, somewhere between 50 and 70 degrees, and you're good to go.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a case for a root cellar.
It is. It is. And, we have consumers who call, and I hear all kinds of interesting places they store their canned goods, especially in the bigger cities.
Oh, yes.
Where they don't have a lot of space in their apartments or condos. Folks will store them under their bed or under their sofa. Like, people get really creative with where, they want to store their home canned food. They love to can, and they're going to find a way to do it.
There you go. There you go. So, Jessica, I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit, and I want you to talk about a time you failed, how you overcame that failure, and what you might have learned from it.
Well, I mentioned earlier that the best advice is to follow a tested recipe.
Oh, yes, of course.
Completely and utterly to follow a tested recipe. Well, part of doing that is to make sure you have everything you need to complete that recipe. A couple of years ago, it was late on Christmas, the day before Christmas Eve. My family, we open up gifts on Christmas Eve night. So it was, I guess, the 23rd, and it was late. And I was like, well, it's time for me to make jam for my brother, because I always make him a case of jam. He lives in Chicago, so I give him the case. It lasts him a year. I get the jars back. We have a routine. And I was going to make his favorite strawberry jam. I had everything but the sugar.
Oh. Oops.
You can't really make jam without sugar.
Yeah.
So there was a late night trip to the grocery store, which delayed me even more. So I learned not to procrastinate.
Oh, yes.
And to make sure that I have everything that I need to complete the recipe. Because he would have been heartbroken if he didn't get that case of 4-ounce jars of strawberry jam.
So he got it.
He did get it.
Nice.
He did get it.
Man, I need a sister like you.
I was running on very little sleep, but it happened, and that's one of those things, you think you have everything. It never hurts just to look through your pantry and make sure. Yeah. Maybe a couple days before. Right. Make sure you have it all.
Yeah. Perfect. So what do you consider your biggest success?
My biggest success. I think one of the moments I'm most proud of was a few years ago. I had the opportunity to be on QVC to sell some of our products, and our kit sold out in record time. I think it was like 18,500 kits sold out in just a matter of minutes.
Wow.
I barely even had any airtime because it did so
Everything
well.
sold, yeah.
And so, like, not only was it, one of those goofy personal goals, in college I used to always watch QVC and, like, dream about being on there.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And then here my dream comes true, and I sell the kit out.
Wow.
Sell it out.
Yay.
So I was on for, like 5 minutes. I think they had me scheduled for, like, 15. And so as soon as your kit sells out, they politely move on to the next item. And so that was really cool that, obviously, hopefully I'm assuming that my presentation inspired people to purchase that kit.
Yeah.
But I got done with that, and because you don't know the results till you're off air, and
right.
I was back in the green room, and I saw them come through on the monitor, and it was really, really cool.
Nice.
Probably one of my most favorite moments.
Yeah, nice.
And it was a really neat opportunity.
So this really points to something that's going on in the world today, I think. Because what year was that happened? Do you remember?
I think that's been maybe 3 years now.
3 years ago. Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed over the past, because I've been doing this a very long time, over the past 5 to 6 years is people are really, really interested in growing their own food, canning. Like the level of interest is going through the roof. Have you experienced that same thing?
Oh, my word. The resurgence of canning has been huge. I mentioned being part of our consumer affairs department and the types of questions that are coming in. I mean, just actually a couple of days ago, one of our agents stopped by and she was like, man, all my call times are really long today because they're all like canning 101. And we love when we get those kind of calls because this gives us an opportunity to be someone's friend.
Oh, yeah.
And to walk them through the process and give them the confidence. Maybe they don't have, a grandma or a mom or an uncle or somebody who's teaching them this art, so they're calling us to be their friend. And it's so cool to get that opportunity. And just when you look at our metrics coming out of the call center, a vast majority are for basically what we call Canning 101. We're doing canning education,
right.
Followed by a very close second is recipe requests. And so that's really cool to see, to know that we make great products so folks want to use them and they have no issues with them and they want to learn how to use them. It's really, really neat to see that. And in just the past few years, we started our Facebook page, and our community on our Ball Canning and Recipes Facebook page is awesome. We have the best fans. They help each other out. When people have a failure, folks immediately are out there to assist them and help them and to understand why that happened. It's so cool. I don't see that on other companies' brands' Facebook pages.
Nice.
The kind of community that we have, and that just speaks to the amount of pride and emotion I think that goes into canning that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. So I really want to point this out because you've said this a couple of times that people can call and get support. Yeah. Where do we find that at? So
it's pretty simple. If you have the internet, you can actually go to our website, which is freshpreserving.com.
All right, cool.
We actually recently just updated our website, so it has a little bit of different look to it, but you can still get right to a team. There's an option on there on the Contact Us page where you can actually fill out a form so we know exactly what it is that you're doing and what you're looking for help with.
Right.
And that will actually come in via email, and then our call center staff is there to help you. And they will, answer as much as they can over email, because sometimes when it comes to canning, it's just a lot easier to have a verbal conversation, just because there's so much detail that goes into that and so much to learn about someone's process to help them. But sometimes that's not the best way, but it definitely is great if you have a quick question. You can go there and do that any time of day. Now, as for our phone number, you can call us at 1-800-240-3340. That number is also available on freshpreserving.com. However, our call center is only open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and then obviously we're closed for business holidays.
Yeah.
So, anytime during those hours we are here. We've got a great team. We have folks who've been helping out in our call center as agents for years. And we've got some really great staff, and I think that also speaks to the pride that goes into this brand in this process, to have folks who, have been with us year over year over year, and they love what they do. They'll tell you, if you ever got the opportunity to meet any of them, they would tell you that they love coming to work every day. It's just a really great place to be. Everyone works really hard. We support each other. We support our consumers, and there's a lot of pride around here, so it's really cool.
Sounds like a fun place to work.
I like it. I mean, I've been here 11 and a half years, so they're doing something right.
So can you tell us, I realize I haven't asked this question yet. Can you tell us a little bit of history of the company?
Sure, I would love to do that. So many, many years ago, in the 1800s, the Ball brothers originally were out in Buffalo, New York, and they experienced a fire, and it burnt down their manufacturing facility. Well, Muncie, where I'm from, offered them a deal on natural gas, and that's what got them to move to Muncie. And so they moved to Muncie, and they started to build their, company and grow and grow. At one point, they actually had a Ball Brothers store in town that was much like a Macy's. It was really, really cool.
Wow.
So they even got into that market. But the Ball family has just been very involved in the community of Muncie. If you're familiar with Ball State University,
I am. I've been there, actually.
Founded.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was founded by the Ball brothers.
Wow.
So we have our hospital is the Ball Hospital. There's just a lot of the Ball branding in my hometown, which is really cool. So in 1993, the Ball Corporation actually left Muncie and moved to Denver, Colorado, and they left their glass business here in Muncie.
Oh, wow.
And so the canning side became a company named Altrista. And then in 2005, its name was changed to Jarden Home Brands. And the name Jarden came from the jars. So that's your Jar, jar. And then all of the products that were, fall under Jarden Corporation are products that you would use in your den. So that's how they came up with the name Jarden. So Jarden was the corporation. And then we had different groupings, kind of buckets under there. And so our division is Jarden Branded Consumables. So our office here, not only do we do the Ball brands, but we also have some other brands that we help with manufacturing and consumer affairs and all of that jazz here in this office as well. But then there are others like Jarden Outdoor Solutions. So that was like brands like Coleman and Rawlings, Marmot, K2, all that was under there. And then like Jarden Zinc makes all the blanks for the U.S. Mint for the production of pennies.
Oh, my gosh.
Jarden Consumer Solutions, which would be brands like Oster, Mr. Coffee, Food Saver.
Wow.
There's tons of companies that over time we acquired. And then just this year, Jarden Corporation merged with Newell Rubbermaid. And so as of just a couple months ago, our new corporation name is Newell Brands. So it's kind of a crazy little path. And, a lot of folks still think that Ball Corporation manufactures the jars, but when they moved in 93, they focused more on aerospace and actual aluminum cans.
Yeah.
So you might pick up a soda can and see on the side that it says Ball. Well, that's Ball Corporation out in Denver.
Got it.
But even though all of these changes have happened, the Ball family themselves have still been very involved in the community there in Muncie. And I mentioned earlier about Minnetrista Cultural Center. It's a really cool place. So if anyone ever comes out to Muncie, check it out. They have a ton of heritage and history on the Ball brand there, a ton of antique jars. You can actually take tours of the Ball Brother mansions. Like, it's we've got a really cool resource right here.
Nice.
Well, I say right here, our office is in Fishers now, but where I live in Muncie, it's really neat to still see that even though the brand's evolved, the family itself is still very involved in the community. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So,
it's kind of a random story, but there it is.
Well, yeah, there you know, it's perfect. So what drives you?
What drives me? Well, for me, I keep talking about Muncie. I've lived there basically my entire life, and being surrounded by this brand, I've seen, all the families impacted by this brand, by whether they're working in the manufacturing or doing sales or whatever. And my whole community has been kind of around this brand. And I mentioned earlier that I never in a million years thought that I would be like a canning expert. I thought I'd be like a social worker, and here I am doing something else. And having that hometown pride and then being able to share it with the world is awesome.
Yeah.
I get on a broadcast on the web. So many people everywhere see that. We've expanded into Australia, the UK, South Africa. I help with our international team. So it's so cool to get to spread something that's so important in my community and be a part of that. I mean, it absolutely was what drives me. And then the people I work with, I couldn't ask for a better team. It's awesome. It's like the trifecta. I've got everything I need every day. I'm really, really lucky.
And I can hear that in your sharing. It's like beautiful. Thanks. So I'm all about education. I have to know, is there one book that's been influential for you in this process?
So that book would be our Ball Blue book. That's been our resource, like I mentioned earlier, for decades. And I can assure you that every copy I have, as we do new editions, is probably the most well-loved book of any I have. Even though I am our expert and I do this all the time, all day, every day, I'm still constantly in this book all the time, looking at recipes. Just it's my go-to.
Nice.
I learned everything. I mean, this was my day one when I moved over to marketing, was read this book. Day one.
Beautiful.
And every day since, I've been reading this book. Even though I know I could probably can it in the dark with my eyes closed. I wouldn't recommend that by any means, but you get what I'm saying. Like
I have a.
This is my go-to, and I would say anyone who's starting, this is the one they should get.
The Ball
They should
Blue
absolutely
book.
purchase the Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving. It was just updated. It came out the updated version last year, so that's a great go-to. And then the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving that just came out, that beautiful one we were just talking about a little bit ago.
Yeah.
That is a great supplement to that. This is, there's a lot of different flavors and a lot of different techniques in this book. So I would say get comfortable with the Blue Book and then upgrade with the all-new book. Because they're both fantastic, and you're going to get a lot of the same content, both, but I think there's more of a classic feel to the Guide to Preserving.
Yeah. I have a very well-used one from the 60s.
Well, actually, that's a really good point that you bring that up.
Yes, I know. I did that on purpose.
You have to keep, in mind that guidelines do change. In the 80s, there was a big change to processing methods. So if you have some older Blue Books, I highly recommend that you cherish those and love them, but just continue using those. You want to make sure that you're using something that's up to date per current USDA guidelines.
Perfect.
I know a lot of folks who still have recipe books that, don't call for processing of certain foods. And, if you're getting really, really old Blue Books, they'll tell you can water bath vegetables, which you cannot anymore. Yeah. But, there's a lot of testing that goes along with the recipes, and it's always, always important to stay on top of that. And as I mentioned earlier, if you follow a current recipe to the T, you're going to have great success, and it's going to make you feel so good to have that, beautiful jar of pickles or salsa or whatever it is that you're preserving, and knowing that it's safe and you can share it with your friends and family and have no fear. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah. The number one rule, follow the recipe. Follow the recipe.
A current recipe.
A current recipe. Thank you. Thank you for correcting
There you go.
Yes. So what one final piece of advice do you have for our listeners?
You know what? Have fun. Have fun in everything you do. But when you're canning, it shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be stressful. Relax. Follow the recipe. Get your friends involved and just have fun. Yeah. I always have. I would think anyone who's really passionate about it probably has fun naturally. But it's not scary, and you follow that recipe, you're going to have great success. You're going to be proud. You're going to love it. You're going to want to do it again. You're going to want to share it with everyone. So just have fun with it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing your experience with us today, Jessica. It's been a treat getting to chat with you and your experience with Jarden Home Brands, and we're really excited about the Can It Forward program that is happening this Friday, July 22nd. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really had a great time today, Greg.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And it was a joy interviewing you, I'll tell you. So how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Sure. So they can go to our Facebook page. It's a great place to get a hold of our brand and anyone, and I help with that. So you'll probably get to talk to me directly without even knowing it. And that is Ball Canning and Recipes. You can always get us there. Again, you can go to freshpreserving.com. We've got a ton of great recipes, anywhere from beginner to advanced available on there. We have our Contact Us page. So again, you could reach out and talk to us, your canning friends here at the Ball brand. And then there's also our YouTube page, Ball Canning and Recipes, where there you can actually see a lot of videos that'll help you walk you right through the process. And actually, you'll see me helping you walk you right through the process. So check it out and meet our friends on our Facebook page. And like I said, have a fun time doing it.
Perfect. And remind us again, Friday, July 22nd, what are the times on that?
10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
And that'll be live on Facebook. Very excited about that. All right, cool.
Me too.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast. Decades ago, I started growing food in my front and backyard, and I realized that my mission in life is to inspire and empower others to grow their own nutrient-dense, healthy organic food. Because of this, a lot of people have come to me with their gardening questions over the years. And that got me thinking, what if we put together a community that would help budding gardeners blossom? So I finally made the idea a reality with my Urban Farm U member program. Each month, your membership includes 3 live online events, a monthly class, a chit-chat with an expert, and a monthly coaching session, plus access to the experts on our member page and a significant discount on our signature courses. I'm deeply committed to transforming our global food system, and I do this by empowering you to grow your own food. The Urban Farm membership program is a simple way to get going. Please join me in transforming your food system today. To learn more, go to urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444. That's urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.